All right, let's jump right in. We're about to break down a massive shift that is completely rewriting the playbook for every single business on the planet. And our guide for this is an incredible handbook, Global Sustainability Regulations, by Dr. Charam Ramandala. It makes one thing crystal clear right from the start.
See, this isn't just some feel-good corporate goal or a passing trend anymore. For anyone leading a business today, this is the new reality. And it's a reality that's backed by actual, legally binding rules that are popping up all over the world.
So think of it this way. For decades, business was like a game where the rules were pretty straightforward, mostly about profit, mostly about growth. Well, that game has fundamentally changed. There's a whole new rulebook now, and if you want to compete, let alone win, you absolutely have to understand it. And that quote you see right there calls this guide an indispensable resource for a really good reason. This whole legal landscape didn't just appear out of thin air. It's the result of huge international agreements, like the Paris Agreement, that set the stage. And now, all those high-level promises are cascading down into the real world, into the day-to-day operations of pretty much every company out there. Okay, so let's crack open this new rulebook. To really get a handle on it, the source material breaks it down into 3 core areas that every single business, whether you're a tiny startup or a global giant, has to get right. First up, carbon markets. The idea here is actually pretty simple. If you pollute, it's going to cost you. Governments set a hard limit, a cap, on the total amount of carbon that can be emitted. Then, companies have to buy permits or allowances to cover their pollution. What does this do? It creates a really powerful, direct financial reason to clean up your act. Next up, and this one is huge, is supply chain due diligence. The old excuse, oh, I didn't know, well, that just doesn't fly anymore. New laws, especially in places like Germany and across the EU, now hold you legally responsible for what your suppliers are doing, even if it's an environmental problem or a human rights issue happening halfway around the globe. And number 3 is the circular economy. Now, don't just think this is about tossing more plastic in the recycling bin. We're talking about a fundamental redesign of how we make things. Regulations like the EU's Circular Economy Action Plan are forcing companies to move away from that old take, make, and throw away model to one where waste is literally designed out of the product from the very beginning. So here's the crucial point. These are not suggestions. These are rules with very real teeth, which begs the question, what happens if a company just decides to ignore all this and tries to play by the old rules? $30 billion. Yep, that was the price tag for Volkswagen after the Dieselgate emissions scandal. It's just a massive, glaring example of the kind of staggering financial penalties that are now on the table for not playing by the rules. And believe me, the risk goes way beyond just fines. We're talking about shareholder lawsuits, losing your actual license to operate, or a complete and total reputational collapse. The power dynamic has really shifted. I mean, get this, in 2021, a court in the Netherlands actually ordered Shell to cut its global emissions by 45%. That proved that a company's climate strategy can now be decided in a courtroom. Okay, so the risks are pretty clear. But here's the flip side. These regulations also create incredible opportunities. So let's open up the playbook and see how you can turn what feels like a burden into a serious competitive advantage. Dr. Remandala's guide lays out a really clear 3-step strategy. First, you've got to assess. You have to know exactly which rules apply to you and your supply chain. Second, integrate. This can't be some side project. It has to be baked right into your core business strategy. And third, report. You have to transparently show how you're doing using globally recognized standards like GRI or TCFD. Let's make this tangible. Take a look at this simple winter jacket. The choice for the outer shell, that's now being driven by the EU Green Deal's push for recycled materials. The insulation, it has to meet the responsible down standard for animal welfare. Even the stuff that makes it water repellent is dictated by the EU's REACH regulation, which cracks down on harmful chemicals. Literally every single piece of this jacket is now a regulatory decision. And this is forcing entire industries to innovate at lightning speed. Just look at the car industry. The specific mandates for electric vehicles, yeah, they vary a bit, with Norway being way ahead of the curve. But the direction of travel, it's exactly the same everywhere. The message is clear. Comply or get left in the dust. So if you take just one thing away from our time here today, let it be this. The pace of this regulatory change is not slowing down. Not at all. In fact, it's only speeding up. And this isn't some abstract, far-off problem for the year 2050. The EU's massive new reporting directive, the CSRD, it's in effect right now. A new law that bans products linked to deforestation, that starts getting enforced next year. Major new regulations are coming online every single year.
This slide just nails the entire shift perfectly. We're moving from the then to the now. From the era of voluntary, feel-good, corporate social responsibility to the new era of mandatory, legally binding ESG reporting. We're going from a messy patchwork of regional rules to global standards, and from manual tracking to AI-powered tools that make it pretty much impossible to hide. The whole system is getting smarter and tougher. And all of this, well, it leaves us with one final really big question to chew on. This explosion of rules is definitely creating a more complex world for businesses to navigate. There's no doubt about that. But is it also creating a better one? That's something for all of us to think about.